Hello and welcome to the App Fairy podcast. My name is Carissa Christner, and each week on this podcast, I'll interview a different app maker in a meet the author sort of conversation. In today's episode, I'll be interviewing Wolfgang Schmitz from an app company called Ahoii. That's spelled A-H-O-I-I-I. Most of the Ahoii apps feature a tiny little sailor in a blue and white striped shirt, and his name is Fita. Their newest app is one called Fita Cars, and it's all about cars and driving. One of the things that I love about it is that they focus on building the road rather than on designing a fancy car and putting on special wheels and whatnot. I think that's a really unique spin on a pretty common app game, and so I'm really excited to have Wolfgang Schmitz here to talk with us today. Thanks for talking with me today, Wolfgang.
Very nice to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yes, you're quite welcome. Thank you. So, Wolfgang, first of all, can you tell me a little bit about the history of Ahoii?
We, as Ahoii, exist since 2014, and we are 4 people altogether. We are 2 designers. We teamed up together with Karts, who is a programmer, and with Sarah, who is an educationalist. And so we are 4 people doing kids apps now.
Wow, I didn't know that your staff was only 4 people. That's amazing. You guys have done so many apps. That's awesome. So can you tell us where your offices are located?
Our office is in Cologne. It's in the heart of Germany.
Can you tell us a little bit about Fita? A lot of your apps feature this little sailor character. He's super cute. And I know that when I first discovered the Fita apps, I just assumed that he must be a well-beloved cartoon character from Germany that you guys were incorporating into an app. But then I did a little more research and discovered that, no, he was actually born in the app, right? Like he didn't exist outside before that.
No. Maybe that's very special with Fita, because we ourselves became fathers in 2010, and then had contact with many picture books, and really great picture books. And coming from a digital agency background, we thought maybe we could do something like that by ourselves. And so we started to try out many children's apps, and saw that in the printed book area, much more effort was put into the product than in the digital version. And so we came up with a style. I painted, really sat in my office and painted with watercolors. And Karts came over, who is the programmer, and said, "Oh, let me have that. Give me that, and I will try out something." And he put together a level that is still in the first Fita app. It's a red car with a tire beside that. And he put a physics engine behind that artwork. And so I could move the tire and throw it through the whole scene. And it was very, very entertaining at that level already. It lacked some empathy, some emotional thing, and we thought about a character, and we came up with a different guys from all over the place, from France, from US, some characters, and then we came up with Fita, with the name Fita, and the name is from area like Hamburg, in the northern of Germany, where the sea is. And in our heads, the whole world opened up. And we put it inside the car, and immediately we thought, oh, that works much better. And so we stick with Fita.
So I have to say that when I first encountered your apps and knew nothing about them, I totally thought that the name was pronounced Fiete. And yes. I think I used that name in my story time for a while. And then when I was going to review one of your apps on our local news channel, I suddenly realized that I really needed to know how it was officially pronounced. So Sarah was nice enough to record her voice when I wrote to her, and I said, "How do you say this name?" She was nice enough to record her voice saying Fita, and then I was able to get it right. Is Fita a common name in Germany?
In the northern area, yes. There are newborns that are called Fiete, and I'm not aware of if we are to blame for that, but it's always related to the sea. Immediately you see a sailor in your head.
Oh, interesting.
Something like that. Yeah.
Interesting.
So we added this kid's voice into the start of the app to make a warm, welcoming intro for Fiete.
And it is indeed warm and welcoming. I really love, and I've always loved, one of the things I'm really attracted to in your apps is your artwork. Can you tell us a little bit about how it's created each time?
Yeah. It's made with real watercolors. Mm-hmm. So we make up in the computer something that you could do also with your hands. So when you paint a texture like a square with watercolor and then cut it out with scissors, you have the same result. And we just let away the scissors and do the cutting inside the computer.
Okay, so you'll paint them onto watercolor paper and then scan them in, and then you just do the cutting digitally on your computer.
Yes. We started books as well. Right now we have 7 books out already.
Oh wow!
It's quite fast.
So he started in an app, but then he moved to books.
Yes,
that's so awesome. I think that happens more frequently the other way these days, and so it's really exciting to see it happen this way. Like, he starts in the app and gets popular there, and then moves into the book world. And are your books available in English or only German?
Right now in German and in Chinese as well.
In Chinese, nice.
Yeah, and in Danish and so on. So, but we are looking for publishing in US as well, or in UK.
I'll cross my fingers that you can find someone, because I'd love to have them at my library.
Yeah, that would be great.
Hello. Hi. I have some questions here that I need to ask Wolfgang.
Wait, who are you?
I'm the app fairy.
Oh, wait, there's really an app fairy?
Well, yes, of course there's an app fairy. That's me.
Okay. What do you do?
Well, I like to bring in questions from kids about the apps.
Okay. So do you have any questions today for Wolfgang from Ahoii?
I sure do. I've got some questions here from kids named Eli and Evelyn, and they live in Madison, Wisconsin. And one of their questions is, where does Fiete live?
Fiete lives on an island in an ocean, but it could be in the near of Germany, it could be in the near France, or it could be somewhere else.
Their guess was in Rio in Brazil, because Eli thought he recognized a statue in the background. Does Fiete move around?
Yeah, he's traveling a lot. And he's coming to every country on the planet, and so Ila is very right. He visited Brazil, and there was the statue in the background. Yes.
Oh, thank you very much. All right. The second question is: does Fiete have a pet?
Yes, he has a pet. You will see that in some upcoming apps and in upcoming books as well. There is always a cat around, and as he's traveling through the world.
Okay, their next question is, when you're designing a new game, do you draw out one picture for each second? So I think what he's trying to ask is, do you do stop motion animation, or is there a different way that you make your characters move?
It's a different way. It's called cutout animation. So you have to imagine each part of your body is also inside that part is also a bone, and we have a similar approach here in animation. We have also bones that move different parts. So I have a hand bone, I have a arm bone, I have a neck bone, and so on. So I can move the bone, and then the graphic is also moving.
Those were really great answers to our questions. Thank you so much, Wolfgang. Eli and Evelyn, thank you so much for sending in your questions about Fiete. That's all I have for today. Thanks so much, Carissa. Goodbye.
Hold on. I'm the app fairy.
You're the app fairy. You don't really sound much like a fairy.
Well, to be specific, I'm the bad app fairy.
The bad app fairy? What is that?
Well, I like to search out really bad apps, and I like to tell you about them.
Well, I don't think the kids really need to know about bad apps.
Well, there are a lot more bad apps out there than good apps, that's for sure. So I don't think I'm going to name any specific names, but I'll definitely tell you some of my favorite characteristics to look for in bad apps. So this week, I think we're going to talk about one of the big bad red flags, and one of those is sneaky pop-up ads. So it's one thing when an app maker has small little ads for other apps in their own app collection tucked into the corner of the front page, like a little preview about some of the other stuff they make. But it's a whole nother thing if the entire front page of their app is completely covered up by a pop-up ad for a totally different app. Or sometimes there's even ads for cars or violent video games on the screen the whole time kids are trying to play an app. These are really fantastically bad apps. I think that if you want to find a bad app, you can talk to me, the bad app fairy.
Okay, thanks, bad app fairy. I guess that makes me the good app fairy. We'll see you next week?
Yeah, we'll see you next week with another idea for how to find bad apps. Bye, app fairies. Oh, that was unexpected, wasn't it? Sorry about the interruption. Let's keep going with the interview. So, Wolfgang, about how long would you say it takes for most apps to come from being just an idea to actually showing up in the App Store? Is it a matter of months, years?
It's very different. When it comes to the recent app, for the cars, the first sketches and stuff like that is 1 year old, so it took the whole year to make that into a fully functional app. That may be because of we throw many things away that we think, oh, that didn't work, or it could work better, and so it's an evolution in the app. But sometimes it gets much more quicker in the App Store. An example is the Olympics inspired app Vita Sports, where you have 13 different sport disciplines to play. And this was in the App Store, I think, in 3 weeks.
Oh, so wow.
That was very quick.
That is very quick.
But it's a very clear idea, and every discipline is like a level, and we could release it with a small amount of levels. So we released it with, I think, 6 or 7 disciplines, and then added more when it was already out there.
And do you do a lot of in-house testing? Like, do you have kids come in and test, or how do you find out if an app is working for other people or not?
The first apps were, since we were really a little tiny 2-people team, were just tested by our kids or kids from our friends and stuff like that. But now we reach out more often to get foreigners to join us and help us with their feedback. And we have an app out that is called Vita Math, where it's all about numbers and amounts. And this was very, very intensive from a testing perspective, because the kid can play around with it freely, even without a teacher or parents beside them. And so it has to be very, very intuitive. And it's very hard to get to that point, to make everything available for the kid, understandable for the kid, even without any text or spoken words.
Right. That is tricky. I mean, I know that some apps kind of end up taking a shortcut and putting all these like instructions sort of written in there, but that's really hard for especially younger kids that can't read, and it makes it hard to have that app work in different countries where the different languages are spoken. So I think that you guys do an admirable job of making your apps clean and easy to understand without without having to rely on a lot of instructions.
Yeah, it's often the case that the time we use for this app is needed to make it easier, not to make it more complicated in front of the user.
Yeah.
It's complicated in the background, but it's so easy to use, and that took us a long while to test that out, different rounds with play testings, and yeah. But I hope it's worth the effort, and people will like it.
That's a really good point, that making an app easy to play is really difficult to program. I especially really do like Fita Math, the one that you were just talking about. And one of the things I love about it is, it's really simple. It's just taking different blocks and putting them onto a ship, and the ship needs 5 blocks. And so you put up 5 blocks, and you can put them in whatever order you want and whatever arrangement you want. And I like that. But I also really like that once you've done it successfully a couple of times, that the reward isn't a bunch of, explosions or kids shouting, hooray, or anything like that, that it's really, you get the reward of like a more interesting block that instead of just being a square might look like a bird or a cat or something like that. And I think that's really special. And so that's one of the things I really love about your apps is that you tend to take sort of app game concepts that are really well used, frequently used, and you add something that makes it a little bit special, something that makes it a little bit different. One of my favorite examples of this is probably in your Fita Match, which is basically just a memory game. But instead of there's a lot of apps that use this memory game idea, but it's usually just like one of 3 or 4 things that they put together. This one, the whole app is dedicated to this memory match concept. But the other thing I think that really sets it apart is that you've got, instead of it just being a grid of cards, the player is playing against a small virtual Fita sailor, right? And so he adds so much interest to the game because you can watch him. If you are waiting too long before you start the game, he gets kind of impatient, starts checking his watch. And if he gets disappointed because you're winning and he's not, then he kind of has an appropriate emotional reaction. And I just really love that you've built that in so that there's sort of this extra, emotional content to talk about how to be a good sport without making it really, it doesn't hit you over the head. It's not like it's trying to teach you a lesson on how to be a good sport.
No.
And so I just really like that. And I was just curious to know, is that something that you specifically think about when you're creating an app? Let's make this a little bit deeper, a little bit more special, a little bit more interesting. Is that something that you put into your design?
Yeah, of course. That is always the point. What can we add to this world that's not out there yet? Mm-hmm. So we try to have a really good, unique point inside the apps. In every app, hopefully you find that. In the math app, there is no app that does that. So like our app does that. That you can freely put together numbers like that. It's always like in the Montessori apps. It's always a stripe of blocks or something.
Right.
But we wanted to give the kids something to play around with, to get an idea how are numbers working together. What is when I cut a 5 in half? What is happening there? Mm-hmm. That interested me, and with the memory app that you talked about, it was just the whole point of the whole memory game, because there are memory games out there,
right.
And there are many, and they are easy to program.
Mm-hmm.
And so our programmer was ready with the memory game in I don't know, 2 or 3 hours, but the whole app needed 3 months. So we came up at first with the idea, hey, it would be a nice memory game if you could sit in front of your opponent of Fita and then play with him. So that was the main idea. And we put a lot of effort into building this emotions that he has. And in the beginning, he's very supportive because the kid does not know what is happening now, and so he's clapping his hand when the kid is doing well, but when the kid is doing too well, he's not so amused anymore.
And I know,
but he's not really angry. But
no,
he's like a real person, you know.
Right.
A real person would be annoyed if you always win, and he never. And I learned a lot about his character when we came up with how should he react when the kid does that. We have a really big diagram with all the different reactions to that, and it was a lot of testing and building, his character in a way, because when you behave in a way, you show a lot of yourself.
Right.
And when he would get angry, then he's not a really nice person to play with.
Right.
So,
right.
Yeah, it was very, very delicate to build that. But it was also very funny.
I think you guys did a really great job of walking that fine line, figuring out how irritated to make him look, and because kids would also have those same reactions. They'd get irritated if somebody else was winning all the time, and so it's nice to be able to validate those and also say, you don't have to get really, really angry if someone else is winning.
No. But if you pay a lot of attention, then you really can see in his face what he is thinking. Mm-hmm. So if you put up a card that he didn't see before, then he makes a little finger gesture so that you can read in his face. Now I told him something that he didn't know before.
Right.
And that's very, very nice to see and to really read his face.
Right.
Yeah.
I just think it's a really subtle and very graceful and really well done app. I think that's my favorite. Do you have a favorite of the Fita apps?
Right now, Fita cars.
Right, because it's the newest one you're working on.
I really look forward to that because it's so I don't know. The cars are so angry in a way that we put there in really nice motor sounds, and you can do marvelous stunts and look what's happening when I do that and do that. So I like this right now very much.
All right.
Also I like the Fita math approach because it shows something that I think will help some kids to get the idea what is math about. It puts really knowledge inside the head of the kids. It's very enlightening, mm-hmm. I think.
I agree. So one of the other really important concepts that librarians and researchers, especially in the U.S., I'm not sure about around the world, but probably, that librarians and researchers are trying to share with parents when it comes to sharing apps with their kids is something that they've put a big fancy label on called joint media engagement. And mm-hmm. that's kind of just a lot of big words strung together to say playing apps together, or at least using apps in a way that builds relationships between people rather than putting up walls between people. Sometimes when you're playing on an app, if you're only looking at the app and everybody else in the room is not looking at the app, it kind of can feel like there's a wall put up between you. So, but if you have things that encourage people to play your apps with two people playing them together side by side, or if you have apps where you can take a picture or a video in the app and then email it to your grandma who lives far away or something like that. That's some examples of joint media engagement. Is that anything that you guys have ever thought about as you're developing apps?
Yeah, of course. Because if you have kids, you know that by yourself. Kids like to play or build something with their Legos or stuff and come to you and show it to you. And that's the same with apps. So it's very important to have savable areas in your app that they can run around with the pen and show it to you. And we always think about how kids will behave when they play the app, or what do they do then? Do they play that together with their parents or not? And I think one of the main main positive aspect of our first app is that there is much room for the parents to talk what they are seeing together with the kid, because it's very, very quiet. There's no ongoing pushing sound in there, and there are no pushing animations in there. It's really like a digital book. And they can experience it together, all the items that they see. Mm-hmm. And we really got mails from also teachers that said, it's so lovely, it's so perfect. I can really make kids talk with that app. It's really, really great for that course. So it's maybe not so obvious, but there are planned breaking points also inside the apps, so that kids can also find an end in the app. It's not playable for hours.
Right, right.
But that's by purpose. For example, in the Fete Farm app, you have an arc from the beginning to the end.
Yep. Even like there's the whole like the sun that comes up at the beginning and the sun that sets in the evening. Yeah.
Yeah. And there are really not. I think it's 12 tasks to make over the course of the day. They are really, really simple tasks, and when you're finished, then the app you can switch it off. Then it's for this round it's finished. So that's a planned breaking point. Maybe to have this as a bedtime routine to put it in the day of the kid, or something like that. So we give a lot of thoughts of how the parents can so to say work with these apps.
I really like that. I mean, I agree that it is kind of subtle, and I don't know that I would have thought of it that way, but you're absolutely right. I mean, your apps, because they do have that storyline arc, and because they don't have a lot of invasive music or a ton of really distracting animations, they are perfect for that reason. I mean, that whole idea of a parent and child sitting together and reading an app together in the same way that they would read a book together is one of the things that I talk about in my library a lot. And when I'm talking with parents about how to read books to their kids, it's not just reading the words straight out in the book, but maybe also, starting conversations about what's going on in the pictures. And so I think that you're right. You're absolutely right that you've designed your apps in a way that makes it a lot easier for parents to just sit down and experience the app together with their kid. So perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, but sometimes I have to admit, sometimes it's not by purpose. I got a mail from some parents that say, we came up with a story from the first Fete app, and we came up with a story why Fete is at the beginning there and ends up there and then there. But that wasn't really planned. But that's very nice.
That's the beauty of an open-ended app, is that you can put your own story into it. I love it.
Yeah, I like it when parents can play together with their kids, but some apps are also planned that the kids can dive in there for themselves. So Fete Math is a very different example. So in Fete Math it was really planned that you can give it to your kid, and the kid can have experiences with blocks and math for themselves to get a clue, without a parent that is always explaining, you have to do that, and look what's happening here, and they have to think about that for themselves.
Exactly.
And that's helping them.
Well, and honestly, I think that is also the mark of a really good app. One of the things I try to encourage parents to do is the first time that they play an app, especially something like Fete Math, the first time that they play with a kid is to just sit next to them and not give instructions. Like, don't tell the kid what to do. Because for me, that's one of the ways that I judge whether an app is well made. Can the kid navigate through it on their own without having to have a lot of explanation? Because that means that they're not going to get as frustrated as they move forward in the app. And honestly, I mean, while it's lovely when you can have a lot of joint media engagement. If we're being honest, I know that there are times when you just need to have your kid play independently for a few moments or for a little while. And it's really nice to have apps that you know that you can trust to be usable and to not have any like offensive content or anything like that in them. So that's one of the reasons I really appreciate that.
Thank you.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with me today, Wolfgang. It's been a really interesting conversation, and I just really appreciate you taking the time to talk with me on the podcast.
Thank you so much for all your support.
Listeners, I hope you too have enjoyed getting to know one of the creators of the Ahoii apps as much as I have. Be sure to check out our website at www.appfairy.org, where we'll be posting lots of goodies online for you to enjoy. For this episode, you'll find photos of Wolfgang and the rest of the Ahoii staff, pictures of their art process, including that flowchart of Fita's emotional reactions to the memory game. So cool. Some printable PDF pages from their German language activity book, and my personal favorite, a free printable version of Fita's memory game so that you can print out the cards yourself and you can play the game in person with a friend or a family member. So cool. They're beautiful. The App Fairy podcast is a production of the Madison Public Library and is sponsored by the Joan Ganz Cooney Center, a nonprofit research and innovation lab dedicated to advancing children's learning in a digital age. Visit cooneycenter.org for more information about the work they do. That's Cooney, spelled Cooney. If you'd like more information about the podcast, check out our website at www.appfairy.org. If you have questions for the App Fairy, for me, Carissa Christner, or for the app makers, use the contact form at appfairy.org. A big thanks to Audrey Martinovich, our audio engineer, David Seste, who created our theme music, and to Hannah Sandvold, who designed our artwork. My name is Carissa Christner. Thanks for listening.
Hold on a second. Hi, listeners. It's the App Fairy back again. I just wanted to tell you about another new feature that I'm going to include in each episode. I'm going to tell you about a hidden gem. This is an app that maybe not a lot of people have discovered, but that it's a really lovely app. The hidden gem for this episode is called Tiny Bang Story. It's kind of like the Big Bang Story, but it's the Tiny Bang Story. And it's a story about tiny little creatures who live in things like old boots and tea kettles and things. And the scenery in it is hand-painted with watercolors. It's just gorgeous. It's all about seeking and finding different objects, and then there's challenging mini puzzles scattered throughout. The game is challenging both for kids and for grown-ups, so this is a perfect game for families to play together. I hope you and your family enjoy playing Tiny Bang Story. Okay, that's really all for this time. Thanks so much. See you next time.